Hi folks, and welcome back. It is the 10th of February and we're having a little bit of an experiment here in the kitchen today. Now what I have in front of me is a dough and what I'm trying to create here is some kind of a sourdough effect. Now I did have a sourdough starter that I began here when we moved here in 2016, and it kept until 2019. I mean, they can keep for 100 years. I mean, there's been, rumours around of a 300-year-old starter that was passed down from family member to family member, and they do really last. The problem I had was, other than Lance and I, people weren't really keen on the sour bread that I made. And because of that, the sourdough kind of got neglected, and in the end it went beyond being recoverable and it had to get chucked away, and I've never really done another one since. So this is another attempt of making a sourdough bread without actually having a sourdough starter to tempt or inevitably waste. So all I've done is I have mixed 2 cups of wholemeal flour. This is an organic flour. I don't use anything other than organic flours. And I have simply mixed it with water and to a soft dough. And I have floured my wooden board and I've just placed it on the wooden board. Now I'm going to leave this dough. It is Tuesday afternoon and I'm going to leave this dough now for 2 days. Just rising, I'll put a cloth over here. Now the reason why I've put it on a wooden board is because in order for this to work we have to have bacteria, because we have no yeast. There's no yeast in this. This is just flour and water. So the yeast has to come from the air, it has to come from the surface around it, has to come from my hands, and it has to come within the wheat itself in here. So a wooden board is a better utensil for that bacteria rather than a silver bowl, for example. So I will be sacrificing my board for a couple of days, and I'm just going to leave this for 2 days. And on Thursday morning or Thursday afternoon I will remove the cloth and we will see whether we have something that's absolutely gross and needs chucking away, or whether we have something that's actually risen and that we can actually bake to see if it does actually produce a sourdough, if it's soured in those 2 days. So at that point I will bring you back. Right folks, it is Thursday morning and our experiment is now 2 days old, and at this moment in time it just looks like some really hard dough that hasn't really done very much at all. It hasn't risen. The only difference I did notice is it's actually gone quite soft, and excuse the camera work, but if you can see it's kind of gone quite soft and loose in the middle, and if you press that down it is a little soft. So I'm going to continue this experiment and I'm going to leave it another day until tomorrow, Friday, and see what state it's in then. And then I might just go ahead and bake it. I think we're probably just going to end up with a big hard brick, because that's what it feels like around the edge. So I will bring you back tomorrow and we'll have another look. Okay folks, we're on day 3 of our sourdough bread experiment, and as you can actually see we do have some action going on today. The dough has started to soften and you can see it just starting to push through the hard crust. This yesterday was just a complete brick, so we do have something going on here. So what I've actually done is I've scooped some of that sourdough filling out, and it is starting to smell a little soury. I've scooped it out and put it in here, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to add into there just a teeny little bit of flour and a teeny drop of water, and I'm just going to whisk this up to make a thin, not overly thin, batter. Hold on, my daughter is just asking me something, excuse me a minute. Yeah, very good. So we're just carrying on to mix that up. And it's a little bit tough because that blub's actually quite hard, but if we keep on whisking and whisking and whisking, and I'm going to add a little teeny bit more flour, and what we're wanting is a not too thick but not too thin mix. And in theory, this will now be the start of another sourdough starter taken from this bread that has started to be active. So it's quite sticky. So I've kind of got to that gooiness, just falling off the little baby whisk there. And I'm going to leave that on the countertop to do its magic, and each day I'm just going to feed it with a little bit more water and a little bit more flour, and hopefully we'll have a new dough, you know, to try. Maybe trying to reintroduce some sourdough bread back in. You know, maybe a little bit different because it's a whole wheat flour, although I just put in white flour, and maybe whole wheat flour is the way to go with this, a little bit of both. So what I'm going to do next is I've actually got the wood fire over there, and I'm going to actually try another experiment, and I'm just going to try and bake this on top of the stove. It may not work because the heat's not going to be consistent, but I'm just going to turn the camera off and then I'll take you over to the setup there so you can see how that's going to work. Okay, so we're over here at the fire, and as I say, whether this will work I really don't know. I did actually cook a wild bread on here, but that was with baking soda. So all I have is you know, just a simple metal bowl and a pie tin that I've just inverted on there, so the dough won't be directly on this the top here, because that would be just way too hot. And hopefully we're creating an oven effect. We have that which is actually quite hot to the touch. So all I'm actually going to do is we're just going to put my plate with my bread on there, and we're just going to turn it upside down on the top like that. So it's basically in like a little tent, and we're just going to leave that for say half an hour, you know, 40 minutes or something, and then we'll come back and see if it's going to do anything or whether I need to pop it in the oven. I'm hoping that I can figure out that this will work. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. See you soon. Okay folks, the bread has been on the wood stove now for probably about an hour and a half, going on maybe 2 hours, and I'm struggling to keep the heat to a hot enough temperature. So it really has made it kind of rise, and all this stuff come out above the crust. But what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to bung it in the oven and finish the cooking process, so we'll have to hope it turns out okay. It might still be a bit brick-like, but never mind, and we'll see what it's like later. So the sourdough has been finished off in the oven, and I broke it in half, and you can just see in the middle that there is some air bubbles in there, and it has risen a little bit, and there is a little bit of, you know, sponginess to that bread. The only thing is I'm not 100% sure about the smell. It kind of doesn't smell sour, I suppose. It smells a little bit weird, but the crust actually tastes like a sourdough crust, so I don't know, I'm going to wait for it to completely cool down, and then, you know, we'll give it a try with some butter. So I think all in all 3 days was enough for some natural yeast to get into here and do what it needed to do. But whether it tastes good or not, I don't know. I will actually put that down below to whether it was good or bad. So yeah, if you like that, then give it a thumbs up, and you know, do all the stuff that you're supposed to do, and we'll see you in the next video.